Hey guys, good day everyone. Assalamualaikum. We are looking at chapter 8, Government Microeconomic Intervention, lesson 4. So, lesson 4 is looking at government failure, and the first one would be reasons for government failure, and then we look at the government intervention on various market failures. So, you can expect the part B there will be a summary of the ones that you have seen the previous semester. Okay. All right. First, we need to list a number of reasons why for government failure. Okay. So, what are the reasons? So, the first one is inadequate information. Now, when we talk about inadequate information, we are relating to the surveys that has been done by the government. It might not be enough. Okay. So, the information, the data collection might not be enough for the government to implement a policy which is going to be successful. All right. So, for example, let's say government plans to build a school in a small town. So, what's going to happen is that if government were to build a school in a small town, they have to survey in terms of population, age of the students, okay, how many of them per household, and what ethnicity, background, income level of the parents and others. Okay, so we need this demographic surveys to be done, and of course we also need to see the facilities to go with it as well. So all this information might be relevant for the government to implement a policy to serve the society as much as they could. All right. What if they build a school, but then it is not accessible to many? So that would be difficult. All right. What if they build such a high tech school, but then the people around them would not know how to even get into the internet, for example? Okay. So these are the things that need to be required first. Otherwise, Gamma would fail. Okay. So you notice that even in Malaysia that we may have such huge projects, but at the end it will be a waste. So then it's a major reason for government failure. Now the second one will be conflicting objectives. So when we talk about conflicting objectives, we are relating to certain objectives that government is planning to achieve, but it may conflict with other policy objectives. Okay. So, for example, let's say government may want to cut taxes, but at the same time increase spending on defense. Okay, but then we know there's opportunity cost here every time, yeah, because sometimes when the decision is being made, okay, where it involves certain welfare gain from certain society, but there would be some alternative foregone. Okay, and this alternative foregone might be higher than expected. So, for example, in the case of education again, okay, so those people who probably receive specific or selective education in special schools, for example, okay, they might receive better education than those who were in public school, normal public school. Okay, so in contrast, assume that those who failed to get into the selected school, okay, would achieve less than if they were in this public school. Okay, so then there will be a conflict of objectives there about the system that is going to be implemented. All right. So by right, the government should make it a rather policy decision which is catering for all, okay, who receive education. But in this case, government may make a wrong decision when it comes to what they're trying to achieve in each of the school. So there might be some kind of focusing more on the say boarding school students rather than the public school. So then the conflict of giving a good education for certain groups of people just be undermined. So government may fail again, right? So that may be related to again lack of information. Okay, all right. So this is again a conflicting objective. Yeah. Okay, the third one would be market distortions. When we talk about market distortions, this is relating to where one market failure that might lead to another market failure. So when you talk about this type of thing, let me give an example of agricultural market. Okay, so for example, if government were to offer farmers a certain form of subsidies, okay, to try to stabilize farmers' income, all right? But the thing is, the policy might just be affected because why? Because if government were to subsidize agricultural sector, then we know that the farmers would increase their supply. Once they increase their supply, then they would be oversupplying certain farm produce. And this will cause the price to fall, isn't it? So oversupply will lead to low prices. And this may affect farmers' income again. So instead of trying to stabilize their income, they might be receiving lower incomes. So then again, it will distort uh, the kind of market they are in, where one part is to subsidize the farmers, the other part is to lowering their income because of oversupply. So I hope you get my example. Another example would be in labor market. So say in labor market, you are having this government trying to impose minimum wage, okay, to protect certain groups of people. But at the same time, government may raise unemployment, okay, because then government would to raise unemployment because of this, because employers have to bear higher cost of production because of the minimum wage, where they have to let go some of their workers. And of course, government may have to increase their spend in terms of unemployment benefits then. So again, in that sense, market is distorted. All right, you're trying to push for a minimum wage, you are increasing unemployment. And at the same time, you have to bear higher spending to give out unemployment benefits for these people. So market is kind of distorted. Yeah. All right. So that's the third one. Okay. The fourth one is administrative costs. Because when you look at government policy, sometimes the fact that where government is trying to solve a market failure, it might involve certain costs, and this cost might be higher. All right, in correcting market failure, it might be too large. Okay, that outweighs the benefit that would be received by the people. All right. So why having to bear too much cost, but then the benefit would be much lower? So then government would fail again, right? So again, for example, if the government were to trying to solve an environmental issue, then they have to impose certain system where they have to hire more administrators to monitor a lot of enforcement. But then probably the environmental issue will not be solved entirely. But the cost is huge because they have to hire all these administrators and the system to go by. Okay. So whatever it is, that's why it is good for government to do cost benefit analysis so that it will not actually involve so much or too high administrative cost. All right. So not government would fail then. We are looking at a smart government who's able to estimate the kind of administrative cost that they have to bear before they run certain projects. Okay, so if the cost is higher than the benefit, obviously, we could say there's a sense of government failure. Okay, excuse me. The fifth one is public choice theory. So, what is a public choice theory? All right, you see the word public choice, right? So, but now this is done by the government. So now everyone assume that government would should act in such a way that they have to maximize economic welfare. Okay, they have to serve the people. They have to assist the society the best way they can. But we know they might fail in doing so because of the previous reasons we mentioned. They might not succeed because of that lack of information. They might face with conflicting objectives, etc. Okay. However, this public choice theory suggests that government may not attempt to maximize economic welfare after all. All right. We assume that they're trying to maximize economic welfare, but by right and the public choice theory, we know that by right government would not attempt to do so. Okay. So whatever they mention in the social media and the news might just be for them to gain popularity. Okay. So who are the people? The people are the voters. Okay. Now, how this public choice theory works here is that it's based on the voters, and the government would want to win the election at the end. Okay, so this is the part where public choice theory comes in, where the public money is spent. So it is to actually secure the politicians in terms of voters. Okay, all right. So there are a number of things that we have to look at. For example, government focus on local interests. Okay, yes, it looks like they're maximizing the welfare of the people. Okay, probably they see that there are some parts of the village, for example, that needs repair. Okay, certain buildings, things like that. So they right away would repair that, but we know the timing is before election. Okay, so that is public choice theory. So then they try to appeal in the ground where they are going to win voters. Okay, that's one part of the public choice theory. The second part would be favoring minorities. Okay, what sort of minorities that we are talking about here? It might be based on the type of voters that we have in certain region. Okay, well, you may have the voters among the different ethnic backgrounds, okay, different races. But public choice theory here again indicate that the government is focusing more on certain groups of people. So in certain local election involving certain ethnic group, okay, that particular ethnic group might be of advantage here. So it doesn't serve everyone. So by right, the policy is meant for everyone regardless of ethnicity background. Okay, but because of trying to win the election again, so government would favor the group of people. Okay, part C about conflicting personal interests. Okay, this is a major part because we know that politicians, okay, are prone to such practices like corruption, okay, just because they are self-interested, okay. They may not just interested in winning the votes, but to win votes means to be able to practice certain things that would go by for their own interests. And this is actually very bad for the nation, but it does happen. If that is the case, then government would fail. Okay, next one will be short-termism. Okay, short-termism here is indicating where a government normally would have at least 5 years, where once they are elected, then they should run the economy and trying to have policies, okay, according to the time period that they have, 5 years, for example. But sometimes there are certain policies that may run more than 5 years. For example, talking about, say, education development, healthcare, and other sorts of policies. Okay. So if let's say they don't win the election for the next year, for the next term, then this policy might not go on. It not might be continuous because other groups of politicians will change policy. So then again, we could say government would fail. By right, a new government, whoever they are, that take over the implementation of such policies would have to continue if it is meant for the people. Sometimes they don't do so. Okay? Now you could notice a scenario that happens in our country that might involve a lot of policy changes because of the change of the government. Okay, recently. Then again, we could say government fail. Okay, another part would be that relate to public choice theory would be regulatory capture. Okay, regulatory capture here is actually giving advantage group of certain people being regulated. Okay, for example, where a monopoly being regulated, but a monopolies here actually the group of people who are earning so much profit. Okay, but some of them need to be regulated because they might pollute the environment, things like that. But they are able to influence strongly how they are going to be regulated because of their position. Okay, because if you notice, even in our country, I think a lot of politicians are connected to big business people. If you notice, they got their way out. All right, and we could say then it is a kind of government failure in this sense. It is not to serve the public, but it is just to serve the monopolies where they are linked with. Okay, so that is regulatory capture. Advantage are given to group being regulated. They are regulated, but they can manipulate the regulation. So simply put, so these are the five major reasons for government failure. Okay, you can read further in under 10, guys, on that page, page 1 to 2 to 1 to 5. Okay, so that's in unit 11 under government failure. So take a look at them. They have mentioned that in detail. All right. Okay, so that's all for now. So this is the first part of lesson 4, chapter 8. Okay. All right. Thank you. So I hope at least you get some idea from what I am explaining. Okay. All right. Bye bye. See you on the next video. Okay. So read the text and please digest. Okay.